Hello, my name is Maria Cha and I'm a third-year student at San Francisco State University, studying international relations. In IR 305, we learned that images matter and images are multidirectional, as my curatorial project on the Hmong genocide will prove to be. Before I begin with my first frame, I would like to give you a brief background as to who the Hmong people are and how this genocide started, as I am sure that many of you are unaware. Some scholars today argue that the Hmong civilization dated back in Asia before the Chinese, and as the two civilizations grew, tensions built and of course war struck. With over 500 years of war, the Hmong finally gave up. The Hmong finally surrendered to the Chinese. The two civilizations grew, tensions built, and of course war struck. With over 500 years of war, the Hmong finally gave up. The Hmong finally surrendered to the Chinese and migrated to southern Asia, where they could practice their religion and culture freely. What we must remember about the Hmong is that whenever they were faced with oppression, they were never afraid to fight back, to live their lives. In the 1960s through the mid-70s, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. intervened and the CIA hired the Hmong to help stop the communist regime from winning over Laos. For the Hmong, this was favorable because they have a past in not working well under communist regimes or oppressive regimes like the Chinese, making the Hmong and the Americans allies. As we all know, the U.S. backed out of the war and Laos fell under the communist regime. And what many people do not know was that there was an agreement made between General Ving Tao and the CIA. This agreement was for the U.S. to help seek political refuge for the Hmong people. So after the U.S. bailed out of the war, it helped about 10,000 Hmong flee the country. Yet it left over 100,000 of its other Hmong allies waiting in the jungle. As the Hmong soon realized that no more planes were coming to their aid, they went into hiding. While some fled to the jungles, others journeyed to Thailand in seek of refuge. In this first frame, the photograph is taken by Philip for Time magazine, and it is one of the most iconic images for the Hmong genocide. What we see here on the foreground is a crowd of men, children, and possibly women of over 300 or more kneeling down on the dirt and rubble. On the background, there is a flood of people coming out of the jungle into the clearing. The focus of this image is on the men in the front kneeling, and as the crowd and the vegetation makes up its background. The importance of this image is what is currently happening to these people. Philip and his fellow journalists came across the hideout of a Hmong rag rebel group in the jungles of Laos, and as the Hmong rebel group were being surrounded by the communists, they came out of hiding to beg the journalists to help save them. And as their caption reads, "Please help us, the communists are coming." What I would like to point out in this photograph is that these men in the front here are actually wearing the uniforms and carrying the same guns given to them by the CIA during the Secret War. And if you look more closely to these trees in the background, there are even more people standing there and coming out of hiding. Eventually, all of these people in this image were caught and killed or starved to death, too afraid to come out of hiding. Using a complex perspective as a first-generation Hmong American, myself, my geopolitical perspective is that the U.S. has never come through with the promises they've made. Whenever they say that they're going to come and help out, they always end up leaving halfway, creating more damage than there already was, like you can see in the U.S.'s history. And though the U.S. has always been one of the first to come to the aid of people that are suffering, they have let this happen to their own allies, the Hmong. And for this image's human impact, it is a plea for help, as the caption reads. It invokes sympathy for others that are suffering, and it makes us want to help them. These images identify and represent an ethnic minority, a part of their past, their present, and the future of the Hmong people if they don't receive aid. Like how Daniel Pearl identifies an American nation in the article written by Dupree and Ellen, or how the Afghan girl in DeLuca's article represented what happened to a nation. This second frame here legitimizes the Hmong genocide. In 2009, the Thai government gathered the Hmong refugees in Thailand and put them into camps to be sent back to Laos, claiming that the Hmong people were not political refugees, but economic ones. Though thousands of Hmong people were sent back to Laos, no record of them were ever accounted for. They simply disappeared. or realistically died by the hands of the LPA, and this is thousands of them. In the second image, we see two people and they are outside in the jungle, and from this caption, these are Hmong parents of a little 9-year-old girl that was killed from an LPA raid on their village, which legitimizes what is going on there. Though we cannot immediately tell from this image that this is a grave, the context is what makes this image matter. As you put together both, they tell a story that is very similar to the many stories of the Hmong people that are still alive today, that are desensitized to what happened to them because they can barely tell the stories of what happened to them, like my parents. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this curatorial project. I hope you enjoyed it. I did.